The other part of that, sorry, have you looked at extending, why does not the pathway, the larger pathway, go more around the ball fields? And why is it not larger?
So the question is, why doesn't the pathway go all the way down around? So so the question being the larger pathway, we would look at this future connection of the sidewalk to actually complete a bigger loop around the entire park. So we didn't want to put in a secondary walkway or a path in here, but we did connect this pathway, so you do have that ability to create a path that is probably getting, definitely in that 3/4, maybe not a mile, but somewhere in that kind of range again. So.
Okay, I'm going to come to you, sir. You in the white shirt, and then Donna, you'll be through.
Greg, I want to start out by complimenting you on a remarkable job of pulling this thing together. And there's still obviously some issues that need to be sorted out. I'm particularly interested in the vista point, and I think you should even consider, like say, cantilevering out, keep the elevation as high as you can, maximizing the vistas. That is really an important piece there. But as I look at all this stuff, I'm seeing a conceptual plan. You've got a long ways to go to make these kind of decisions on a lot of these pieces, and a lot of them will be dependent upon budget. I was a little disturbed to know that tonight is the last public meeting. It seems to me that after another few months of your work on this stuff, you can bring back one that's tweaked so we have a little bit better idea of what is more likely to be in, what the alternates are. I would ask the SPU, the Park Department, to come back and says, okay, here are the alternates. Here's potential funding sources, either within the budget or elsewhere. Here are the people in SDOT and SPU that can help do those kinds of things. Like the pump house there, whatever it is. That's their responsibility to fix that thing up, not the Parks Department. So I would ask that sometime in the next 6 months, you guys come back to us, take this input, tweak it, give us a clear indication of what are the alternates, what are on the edge, what those costs are. If we want to do some fundraising, we have a target, $150,000 for a skate park. Okay, now we know what we're going for. I would ask the Park Department, says, where do you get grants for doing those kinds of things? Give the community an opportunity to go after that, and bring Seattle Public Utilities out here. Start with Martin Baker, and work on down if you need to, or Ray Hoffman, and get them here to listen to these kind of things, because they're making the policy decisions that are affecting a lot of your decisions here.
So, everyone heard. I don't know there's so much as a question there as there is the follow-on as to what happens. What we have is about another month that we spend to wrap up this piece. One of those things will be to kind of refine the cost and make sure we've got that in order. We have to go to design commission and do some other things with this. Then we go on hold for about a year, correct? So we're on hold for about a year.
We are doing fundraising during that year.
Yeah, right.
We need to know what you're doing so we can.
What I was trying to say in the beginning is that we're trying to come to you with this schematic plan so that you have that for the fundraising. So then when we get this within the next couple of months, we have to do a little more tweaks and determine more details. Then we can have more substantial answers as far as, okay, this is a skate park that was this big. If we can fit it, this is the kind of money we need for it, and these are the avenues you can look into.
So we can provide that additional information.
Let's have another public meeting so we get a couple of months then.
What's that?
I don't know. I don't know if we're having another public meeting, because I think if we did, after the year, we'll come back after the year, but we'll be in contact, and I'll definitely be using Donna and all your emails and all that if there's something substantial that. But I'll keep you informed with it.
Maybe we'll have a public meeting.
This information.
I just am curious about the rain garden, if you could describe more about what that looks like. That's all.
This is going to be the question is about the SPU rain garden.
And what, is it a requirement from them?
This is, second-hand explanation of what I understand. This lid slopes, and the storm water off this lid is collected in a pipe all the way around the perimeter, and it ends up over here. It's put through this rain garden to infiltrate, improve the quality. So it enters way up here at the top, just off that white circle, and it exits all the way down here in this little circular space. There's a series of weirs, little waterfalls that'll drop over, and the vegetation is predominantly native plant materials. The idea being they're things that live here and can actually help consume some of this water. In a nutshell, that's the...
So is it actually like a pond with little weirs in it?
No,
no
there's-
exposed water surface?
There's no standing water. It's just going to be when there's runoff, there'll be water moving through it, and when there's no rain and no runoff, it'll be dry. And I think that's part of what Patrick was keying on, was the fact that we have a dry season and we have a wet season, and celebrating those. So that's why the rain garden seems to work fairly well.
Well, of the many questions I have, I'll just do two of them. The first one is with the new playground area, with the details and the specifics on planning on that. Is that something you're going to come to the community for? Because I know there's a lot of parents and stuff that would like to have some input into that. So what is the process and the timing on that? And then the second question is, SDOT right now is making a proposal to put a bike route along Roosevelt Way. And that would be removing parking between 82nd and 85th alongside the park. Did you guys come up with any alternatives, or was anything even considered about how we might be able to coordinate that with the park?
So on the play area, we're leaving it at a schematic level, and I think as we develop that design, I think having a committee to
We could
discuss.
definitely come back, because that's the money that's kind of coming later down the road. So that's something we could absolutely come back to. Because this is kind of what it's, at the schematic level, but as the detail is developed, then we can have a meeting.
So that would be something that would happen after the year when after the 1 year time
Yes.
period.
And
Okay.
we wanted to give you the sense of it's expanded, we're trying to capture a little more space for it and add a little more creativity to it, a little more life to it. There might be some existing things people really like too that we want to replicate and bring back too. So that's part of it. So we're just conceptually showing an area for it.
I was just wondering about the timing because people have asked about that.
Parking, so your comment about this parking is going away and then this parking may be opened up. We've stayed away from the parking issue. One, because of the cost of putting in parking or a parking lot or stalls, and then two, that impact that it has from our friends at DPD when they see us do parking and the requirements, they may come back in. And I don't want to misquote myself, but I have a rough cost on this, and this is, if I think about it, this is probably a couple $100,000 worth of work to do what they would ask us to do along these two edges right here. We would rather focus that $200,000 up here because we have so much space that we're trying to cover.
That actually wasn't my question. I was wondering how the bike route might work with the park, if there was any way to do that.
Open spaces, right?
Right.
Right, I think that's what she was saying.
Yeah.
So your question was, how does the bike route?
Yeah, they're going to be taking out the parking along there, and my thoughts were, I was discussing this with the guy from SDOT, and he rolled his eyes at me, is to bring the bike path onto the sidewalk, and then we could create a second pedestrian sidewalk within the park that would be parallel to it.
Okay. Well,
And I guess that hasn't been discussed at all.
well, actually,
I've talked to him about it.
Okay.
the thinking about the secondary walkway or widening out, this walkway is obviously pretty inadequate. It happens to be in the right-of-way, so it's not necessarily our concern. There is a walkway there also. We know it doesn't function properly, but we're trying to put the money into the park rather than that edge. We had a scheme that had that secondary walkway moving along this edge. We run into some grade issues in areas like this. Of course, we run into grade issues in here in cutting off some of the space in here. So we thought with how complicated it would be in places it might not be accessible. So rather than build a secondary sidewalk, we thought we'd leave the existing sidewalk as is and then move our circulation in for people to kind of move into the park rather than along that edge and kind of a double edge. So